Don't let your decision paralysis demon keep you from watching something great this weekend. Subscribe to ScreamShare, the newsletter that serves up a 5-minute breakdown of the best horror available on streaming. I'll have essential weekly movie picks covering new films, classics that you need to catch up on, and a movie that's always streaming for free. So subscribe now, and you can even be part of some frighteningly fun watch parties we're putting together that'll let you be part of the conversation. So click in the link in the show notes or go to screamshare.beehive.com. That's screamshare.beehive.com, and make sure you whitelist your welcome email so you can get updates for all of the news and updates. And now the body count continues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, die-in time is here. That's right. We're talking about Your Next on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the Davidson Estate in somewhere in Missouri. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. So we're going to unpack all the glorious details of 2011 and 2013's Your Next, in the hopes that a family member's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we can make at their expense. I'm going to take that again. No, I'm not. Fuck it. And of course, there's only one person I trust to make sure that the board with nails that I put through it are right where I'm about to step. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
We're recording on a relaxing Sunday morning. I'm just here listening to my 70s easy listening, just gently decaying.
Yeah. On the couch, just rotting in real time.
Just, totally reach premium relaxation as my skin starts changing color.
I do like this peppy ELO flavored tune that you're listening to, though. I enjoy that very much.
That's a 70s golden great.
Is that I had written down the name of that song, and I've promptly forgotten it. But I know it's a 70s song.
I believe so. It is the Dwight Twilley Band. That's
I
do remember that, but I'm blanking out on the name of the song. I think it was a minor hit.
Okay, Dwight Twilley. That's quite a name.
That's a real Conway Twitty there.
That's memorable in either a good way or a bad way, because if you hear a song by Dwight Twilley and you're like, that's not for me, you're never going to check out Dwight Twilley again. But conversely, if you do, you're like, Dwight Twilley for life, baby.
I'm a Twilley head for life.
So this movie, we've referenced it a lot in the last 2 years in various episodes. It's just come up over and over and over again in various respects, because so many of the movies that we've discussed are either semi-related to it, or there are flavors from it that resonate in these other movies. And when watching it again, I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of not the first eat the richish sort of horror movie that ever was, but the first of the more modern trend to examine rich people and want to kill them off on the basis of catharsis.
Right. And also, this has got some really gnarly kills in it.
Exceedingly gnarly kills. And it's also so quick. Like, this movie doesn't waste a bunch of time out. Every character beat is telling you what you need to know about a particular character. And you meet some people so briefly, and yet their characters, you understand who exactly what they are and their relationship to one another in such a brief and intense fashion. It is a wonderful example of economy when it comes to storytelling. And so I was struck once again, like, this baby's like a Swiss watch. There's no fat on it. It's just from the word go, delivering you exactly what you expected from a title that says Your Next. and also has a title card that is germane to the actual movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's written in blood on a window. That is your title card for the film. And I'm like, I really enjoy how quickly this movie gets you from point A to B and on to the next letter after in such a swift and economic fashion.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have like its plot twists in it. Doesn't even make you think like, huh? Wait a minute, right. That doesn't make any sense.
It kind of communicates what it's going to do very early on, but that doesn't make those twists and those character turns any less involving or interesting when they happen. And it's just, I thought, really, I wondered deep down how Lionsgate fumbled this fucking bag. Because when I get into the backstory of how you get this finished product in theaters, you're going to wonder, did Lionsgate want this movie to fail, or were they just underprepared for the reaction that they had been told in test screenings this movie was going to get?
Well, I mean, does any of their decision making have to do with the fact that you're really only going to know who most of this cast is if you're either, a fan of indie horror or mumblecore? Because that's I feel like that, and I don't consider it a problem because I do know who most of these people are, and I knew who they were going into the movie when I first saw it, probably about 10 years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. But like, other than Barbara Crampton, you look at this and like, oops.
Sure.
There are no, I mean, to the casual film goer, there are no big names in this movie. And again, this was a time still, we were coming out of a period where you were putting a lot of actors who, generally weren't known for doing horror in your horror movies.
There's a lot of WB/CW horror. We were still living in the aftermath of the screamification of the genre, in which there seemed to be a farm system. You were on a teen-focused show on a network or on cable, and you were an attractive person. So all of a sudden they're like, well, we have a movie about a cursed doll. Get the hottest person you've ever seen and put them in this movie. And the awareness of them is like, oh, they're on TV. But I would also say, like, traditionally horror is a place where you can also just like put people you don't know. I mean, with all reverence to a friend of the show now, Cooper Tomlinson, outside of like seeing his face a bunch on TikTok previous to Obsession, I couldn't say that I knew who Cooper Tomlinson was. It hasn't stopped Obsession at the time of this recording from increasing its box office total from the second weekend, and then in its third weekend doing even better than that. So knowing who a cast is, I think, has benefits, but obviously is not a limiter to how a horror movie can do, because ultimately, for a movie like Your Next Door Obsession, you're going for the plot and the way it's promising to make you feel, rather than, I can't wait to see X do Y.
Right. And I do think that I am quite certain that this movie would do much better now.
Yes. It is entirely possible that there's no scenario in which Your Next makes more money than it did. The thing is, it made a ton of money. This was made for around $1 million. It ends up making nearly $20 million at the box office. So that already is a monumental success. But the thing is, at its core, the movie had this big buzzy festival run.
Right.
Lionsgate buys it and then sits on the movie for 2 years. It's not the only movie they sat on. They also managed to do this to Cabin in the Woods,
which was another huge, it also ended up being another huge hit.
So it's one of those things where did they just not know what to do with these movies? In which case, why did you buy them other than the fact that they're both great movies?
Well, I mean, is it possible, and you would know better than I would about these things because you do have a lot of insider knowledge. Is it possible it was just some sort of strategic move? Like maybe there was another expected to be huge horror coming out that they didn't want to put it up against, or like, I mean, do you think maybe there was positive intention on keeping them under wraps for a while?
I think there's definite belief within the company that they had a movie that people really like to watch. And what I think they struggled with is something that you already brought up, in that the movie has no quote unquote stars. Shari Vincent was in, I think maybe before this or in between the actual debut of it and the movie hitting theaters, she was primarily known to American audiences as that girl from that dance movie. But it's not like she was the centerpiece of multiple Step Up movies. She was in a Step Up movie.
Right. And again, that's, as successful as those movies were, it still had a mostly niche audience. And generally speaking, and I'm sure someone will be happy to tell me that this isn't always true. Mm-hmm. There isn't a lot of crossover between horror genre fans and dance movie fans.
Well, yes, I think I'm sure there is some crossover on some level. Certainly one of those crossovers was me. For whatever reason, Becky and I, Step Up was our Fast and Furious.
Really?
I don't know why, but it was that we'd seen the first movie maybe on cable and then saw the set, and then in a rush to see something that would make us laugh and feel good, we saw the second movie. And then it became a tradition. We're going to go to the movies to see a Step Up film. And we're probably we were much younger then, but still the oldest people in that audience. And I don't know what it is about them that brought such joy, but I think the comparison to Fast and Furious is genuinely apt. It's a movie you see that gets more and more ridiculous the farther it goes. And no matter how many times they pull off the variation of, we have to dance our way into saving the community center, a la Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, it never got tired for us, because at least you were watching fun people dance. And dancing is one of those special effects that is not inexpensive, but so much less expensive than so many other special effects in the world.
Right.
And as a result, like, oh, this one's in 3D. You better believe we're there first weekend.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
Why wouldn't it be in 3D? Why wouldn't we want these people's feet right in our faces?
Yeah. And, they were fun. And I feel like that's a genre we may not get back, sadly. Although
fun movies.
Yeah, fun movies.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to count fucking Scary Movie 5, sure.
Well, that's the wild thing. So just a quick sidebar here. As of the recording of this, it'll be somewhat old news by the time it comes out, because we're trying to get ahead for summer. But I saw Backrooms. All I wanted to see Backrooms, and Becky had a friend thing that she was going to. So I'm like, well, if you're going, I might as well just like buy a ticket and drive you home afterwards, and you be with your friend, and I'll be somewhere else in the theater, not really part of this. But Backrooms was so well attended, and I was, again, the oldest person by quite possibly 30 years in the audience, and so deeply engaged that audience was. It was the first movie in a while in which I literally saw popcorn fly.
Really? That's great.
So the audience that it worked on, And they were also hyped up for it, which I thought was very encouraging.
Well, I think
Fantastic production.
the kids like the liminal horror stuff, because it's a YouTube era thing. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a denigrating way. I'm just saying that is a very specific genre. It's like a Slender Man for millennials, or I guess that'd be more. Ollie's like is he Gen Alpha or Gen Z?
He's on the cusp, so he's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll when it comes to he's a baby Z and elder Alpha.
Right. Well, it's like I said, Slender Man is like the generation ahead of that. Yeah. And but this is, completely, YouTube born. And kids Ollie's age grew up with YouTube. I mean, again, it's not necessarily good, not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what it is. So it makes sense to me that this would be landing well with younger audiences, and maybe not so well with people our age who tend to be a little more grumbly and demanding of, like they're not willing to just vibe with horror movies. Remember, we were the exception to, for really liking Skinamarink and the Outwaters, and, movies in which, it isn't entirely, if at all, clear what's happening. It's
right.
Just, okay, this isn't sitting right with me. This is making me uncomfortable.
I would say, part of and I actually, Ollie's friend group sort of bum rushed me, because as the person who was the most steeped in horror, one of his friends had never seen a horror movie before.
Oh, bless his heart.
And that was his first. I'm like, hey, that's so cool. I'm so happy that I could be here for that. I love that this was the thing that made you want to check out an entire genre that you were wary of, because maybe you'll find other things in that you enjoy, or maybe it's a one-off. Who's to say? But that's so cool. And at the end of the day, you bring up two movies that I feel I have I wouldn't say a greater affinity for. I'd say they worked in a way that I enjoyed a bit more, in that they kept their solutions and truths to themselves. And I think that's what is frustrating for others about them. But I found the reveals within Backrooms of explanations to lessen the impact of what I thought were pretty impactful, emotional, and tension-filled scenes. I don't know that I need to know that much about the Backrooms for it to work. And it chose to explain. Yeah. And that's where I kind of checked out.
You don't need to explain. Like, it's like, when you, in real life, it's like, well, I feel uncomfortable. Well, why do you feel uncomfortable? I don't know. I just do, I mean, it's, maybe explaining it will make you feel better, but also at the same time, why do you want your audience to feel better in a horror movie? I mean, like that's, bring it back to your next. I mean, the way it ends is so unexpected and, so, untidily. It does not wrap things up. And it just, the audience would, certainly would go in expecting, a la Ready or Not, that, she's going to triumph in the end. And it's like, oh no, now she's more fucked than ever.
Well, we've said it so many times over the course of the podcast, because one of the first non-franchise movies we ever covered was Happy Birthday to Me. And I feel like, while no one has ever voiced this, there is the ghost of Happy Birthday to Me within your next. It's rich people and rich people problems, and these somewhat outsiders and fail sons and daughters within it.
So many. The whole fucking family.
Yeah. That they're just unprepared for life and each other and whatnot. But the other component is the endings of both films very much rhyme with one another. And I have to believe that deep down, Simon Barrett, the writer, just had this nugget in the back of his head, like, what if we do a happy birthday to me? Because that hasn't happened in a while. And it entirely works. And at the end of the movie, when I saw it in theaters, I'm like, oh, see, this is the best kind of reference when it's not obvious, but I can tell the influence and I can tell they chose to do it that way, not to point at happy birthday to me, but to go, this is a great ending. And yes, it reminds you of that other thing, but see how well it works here.
Right, exactly.
And I just think it's kind of brilliant how it's able to square that circle. So to get into the backstory here, this is the baby of director Adam Wingard and writer Simon Barrett, who before this had made a micro budget movie called A Horrible Way to Die, which is good. It's depressing, but it's good. And then they had a semi-sequel segment that was in the original VHS anthology. Speaking of indie creators doing indie creator shit. But Wingard asked Barrett to concoct a home invasion movie because that was what was really scaring him at the time. And so Barrett looked to combine several inspirations, including things that would be very familiar to people who've listened to this podcast, and that is the sort of Agatha Christie chamber mystery, and then there were none sort of thing, and Mario Bava's proto Friday the 13th slasher, A Bay of Blood, which is about a bunch of rich people who start killing each other off in ways that will be familiar to you if you've ever watched a Friday the 13th movie, because for sure, it's running in the back of somebody's head, quite possibly Tom Savini's. I'm not going to say that he's ripping it off necessarily, because some of them happen in part two. A lot of the famous ones happen in part two. But, and Savini's not involved in that. That being said, there's just a vibe there. Whether it's coincidence or not, I can't say that. And we've always been nebulous about it in the past. But there are plenty of people out there who will go frame by frame showing you how similar so many of those scenes were. That being said, Barrett completes the script and they start attracting investors because it's a relatively cheap movie. And all the people involved here, to a certain degree, are very hooked into the indie financing scene, including Larry Fessenden. We've got Amy Simons, AJ Bowen, Joe Swanberg, Ty West, and they managed to lure genre legend Barbara Crampton out of semi-retirement to play Mrs. Davidson. And I think that's the first thing that kind of pops for people in the genre space, because while Barbara Crampton had been working consistently in the years after her major, early horror run on television, she hadn't been seen on movie screens in a while. And this was kind of, hey, remember this person you love? She's back. And I remember going, that's kind of brilliant. So Barbara Crampton is for the heads,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but for some reason, before I rewatched this movie, I had Mandela affected Jeffrey Combs as Paul, the father, but it is not Jeffrey Combs.
Right.
I don't want to say it should have been Jeffrey Combs, because Rob Ray is perfectly fine in the role. I just feel like that would have been the cherry on top of the sundae.
I agree, like that would have been an interesting version of this, but it would have, to a degree, felt might have overwhelmed it a little bit. I'm not sure. I do like how normcore the dad here is.
Yes,
that he is genuinely unfazable to a deathly degree. Like he just does not think the worst of anybody, and I think to a degree, it's his attitude that has bred these children.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The way they are. He's just accepted them too much. And there's no demands on them to be their own person, and yet they're constantly made to feel like they're disappointing him.
I mean, we've been kind of, dipping in the little well a lot, and it's hard not to when it comes to, the desire to see horrible rich people get their just desserts. But I mean, this is reflective of real life people.
Yes. And I think that is core to its appeal, because while not any, the rare amount of people who happen to be this rich are going to see this movie and directly relate to it.
Yeah, they're not going to, their attitude would be, well, they don't mean me.
Right, yeah. What I think it does contain in terms of that sort of universal appeal is that everyone has family dynamics that are fraught.
Well, yeah,
even the best of families have interpersonal relationships that are just tougher than others. And this just explodes that concept to the nth degree.
Right. And you've got, even, in a very public way, just grown adults debasing themselves to win their parents' approval. And it's, it's sad and, frankly, kind of pathetic that you're still, Daddy, do you love me?
Mm-hmm.
but it's very potent to the society tells us, for thousands of years, that a parent's love is unconditional.
Right.
And yet, speaking from personal experience, again, I'm not going to treat this as my therapist's couch, but that is not always the case. Yeah. For some parents, their approval and love is very conditional upon, usually upon, being the person they want you to be, whether, that's the person you want to be or not.
Or to pour all of your hopes and dreams that you may or may not have realized into this other vessel, I think is a trap that many a parent will fall into in both a large and small scale.
Right.
Right. Do I feel a sense of, real pride seeing like Ollie play volleyball? Sure. I loved playing volleyball. Wasn't nearly tall enough to really make anything happen. He happens to be a tallie. He happens to be lanky AF. So he does very well out on the court. But there are also times you're like, I don't know that this is something I love. I'm like, well, at that point, you're not really forced to do it in school any longer. If you want to focus on AP classes in your junior year rather than sports, I'm not going to begrudge you for that. That would be crazy. Like, you got to look out for your own brain, your own time, and focus on what's important to you specifically, which may be different from me. And you kind of have to voice that stuff out. Otherwise, your kid's going to come away with the impression like, well, I'd be happier if you just did what I wanted.
Right, exactly. And the key element there is that you're a good parent. And you want your child to be happy. You don't want to have bragging rights. I mean, you're always going to brag about your child. You love your child.
And I have plenty to brag about.
Right.
But yes. I agree. I am a great parent. Thank you for recognizing that. That's what I was agreeing to, not that I have a great kid. I just want to make that very clear.
That's entirely due to me. Nothing to do with Becky. She gets no credit with this. This is all my doing.
She tries, but
it's all me, baby.
As I had mentioned at the dinner table the other day, it can be frustrating to love and live with a woman who is right 99.99% of the time. And it's not that I hate the fact that she's right all the time. It's just that if someone's right all the time that often, at a certain point, you begin to think, am I wrong that often? And
it's like, can't I be right once?
Yeah, can I just do something okay? But it turns out I can't do something okay. But then again, it's good news for all of us that someone can actually solve problems in this family. And someone has a horror podcast. You guess who? I think there's other elements here that we've touched on that are important. I think where the cast you might not know unless you're a mumblecore fan thing really works is that most people coming in the movie don't have a presupposed idea to who an AJ Bowen character is.
Right. You don't, like, you go in with no expectations as to, well, this person's going to be the bad guy.
Right. This might be your first introduction to a Joe Swanberg dork character. Like, oh, wow. Deep down, he's kind of a dick. Is a Joe Swanberg staple.
Is this the only time that, I realize I could just look it up myself, but maybe off the top of your head. Is this the only time that Ty West has appeared in a movie just acting? I know he's not in it. I know he's not in it very long, but
he's not in it very long. I do think he has popped up for small things here and there. But yes, this is the first time I remember Ty West acting in something. I think if I remember incorrectly, I think he might be semi-acting in his VHS segment as well.
Okay.
But I could be misremembering that. But yeah, that's one of those things. Like, this is definitely the first time I saw Amy Seimetz, who is a staple in the indie film scene and has done a ton of directing over the years. Was the original director of every episode of HBO's The Idol until she said, "No, fuck this," and walked away.
This is gross.
This is not what I signed up to do, and walked away from it. And I think she made the right call. But it should be noted, a lot of the performers who signed on to that series signed on because they wanted to work with Amy Seimetz. So once you're into it, not many of them could really walk away. That I think that movie, not movie, I don't know what the fuck The Idol turned into.
Basically, weird humiliation stuff. I mean, it was very typical of, the creator of Euphoria. So
yeah.
If I could make a quick recommendation for an Amy Seimetz directorial, I believe she wrote it too. Mm-hmm. And I wrote about it in my book, is a 2020 movie called She Dies Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a good fit for this podcast because it's very existential. It's kind of psychological horror, but it's mostly just sad. Mm-hmm. It is about essentially a sort of almost like mind virus. And the fact that this came out in 2020 right. was unfortunate, and I think that it's suffered for that. But it is a mind virus that can be passed on to different people that convinces you that you are going to die the next day. Oh, wow. Just an overwhelming sense of doom to the point where you're going out seeking out people and saying goodbye to them, or engaging in maybe reckless fucking world, to go die tomorrow behavior. And in the end, not to give it, well, I am going to give away the ending. Nothing happens. And it really, what it is it's about depression and just this overwhelming sense of doom that comes with a particularly serious depressive episode, and where you had to question yourself is like, well, do I think I want to die, or do I think I'm going to die, or do I want to die? And that's it's a very troubling and unsettling movie, and I've never quite seen anything like it. And while it is not a fun movie, it's also a very interesting movie and a very unique take on mental illness. So I highly recommend. It's very personal too. But the main character is named Amy.
I do remember seeing it and remember liking it quite a bit, but it's because it kind of got memory hold in the whole pandemic thing. I think I put those feelings in a box.
Yeah, again, it was not a providential time for a movie with such themes to open when everybody was convinced they were about to die. So
bad timing. Bad timing seems to go around. Speaking of which, I think the other thing that this movie in particular is on the forefront of, particularly when it debuts at TIFF and Fantastic Fest, is that it's really eschewing the CGI gore of the aughts and investing in practical special effects. It has some really solid stunt work. It's making great casting decisions that are not obvious to the sort of CWification at the time. Not that those people shouldn't work, but I don't think it would benefit this to just have a cadre of the prettiest people you've ever met in your life.
Right. And I also appreciate that, in regards to the special effects, that there was no way you could edit this down so that it could be shown it could be shown on television or for a younger audience. Like this movie is gory as fuck. And I loved it.
So it premieres at these two film festivals, and it is the movie of those festivals. People are like, this is going to be huge. It is satisfying. It's delivering what you wanted to get. Like, it's unexpected. It's such a twist on the traditional final girl role. Audiences are going to eat this up. And so that's 2011. 2 years later, Lionsgate finally releases this movie into theaters. It snags nearly 20 here in the States. Total worldwide 27 on $1.5 million budget. So it legged out. It made money. And everyone got to work again and everything. But I do have to wonder if Lionsgate had taken the buzz that this had built from those festivals and put this out in the next year, in 2012, I think this would have made twice as much.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because
the one thing it really had going for it was the people who had seen it couldn't shut up about it. It made an impression. People loved it. It was satisfying. And for whatever reason, they couldn't figure out a way to sell it because Joe Swanberg or whatever, I don't know. But in the end, the marketing they had was perfectly fine for it. And it's not like Sharni Vincent is someone you wouldn't want to see on a movie poster. And to that degree, I think her being like a stunningly attractive woman amongst, it's not like there's a bunch of uggos in this movie, but there is like a differential. Like most people in the movie look normal. Even Barbara Crampton, they're like, how are we going to make it look like, because she's obviously older than the younger cast, but they are people in their early 30s to mid 20s. She does not look like, when did she give birth to them? When she was 16? and they're like, we're going to have to find out a way to make her appear older in a very apologetic way. And she's like, no, it makes sense for the movie. But, when you see Barbara Crampton now, nearly, 15 years later, she looks better now in various movies than she does in this film because she's aging herself up.
I was going to say, also she's vampire, so.
Yes, that's very, very true. Well, those genetics, that skin, baby, it's like
never spent a day in direct sunlight in her entire life.
No. You know what? And those many, many aerobic workouts that were apparently photographed nonstop by Soap Opera Digest. That I feel like every month there's another photo erupting of her in aerobics where that is from that magazine or some other one where they're just constantly shooting her workouts. Like, is she sponsored by spandex? What is happening? But if you have the opportunity to shoot Barbara Crampton in spandex, I don't think you say no.
No, you absolutely don't. That would be very, very dumb. What's also dumb?
What?
Is going home to meet your boyfriend's family and discovering that the sons' names are Felix, Drake, and Crispin. This is a family full of assholes with asshole kids.
Yes. And to wit, I think I want to bring this back, Gina, to how we used to do things back in the day. And that's quite literally talk about everyone in the order in which they die. So this plot is pretty simple as a setup. If you haven't seen it, pause this and fucking watch this movie. You will not be disappointed. It is an absolute blast. The Davidson family is all gathering together at their country estate in Missouri. And we have Audrey and Paul, our matriarch and patriarch. We have Drake, the oldest, who is an absolute dick through and through. Played with zeal in that direction. And his wife, Kelly, who I think is comfortable, and that's where she would like to be. Then we have Crispin, the middle child, and his newer girlfriend, Erin, who's Australian, and her accent is making everyone else feel weird because she seems special and different than them. And that disquiets them. Then we have Amy. She's the only daughter, and she's getting that only daughter treatment. And of course, her boyfriend, Tariq, who we're going to get into. And then, of course, the youngest of the group, Felix, and his goth girlfriend, Z. But before we really get into them, we have our cold open couple with Talia and Eric. Now, Talia is not having a good time while in the middle of sex. We can say that out front. Whatever she thought this was going to be, at the end of this, it is that all there is?
Yes.
She may be a current student of Eric's.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. They're not a couple exactly.
Yeah. No, this is more like a rendezvous.
This is possibly transactional.
Yeah. And Eric is some sort of college professor. We know a few things about Eric. He loves Dwight Twilley Band. Who doesn't enjoy that ELO era inspired power pop? We know he's a selfish lover. And that may probably be why he's getting divorced, which we hear later on. And then he seems to have a level of dead body blindness because Talia is killed off screen. And her dead body is just left splayed out in front of a window with blood streaked all over it. And he's much more concerned about what that blood streak, what side of the glass it's on, rather than the dead body on the other side of it. But again, like Larry Fessenden is such a perfect actor for this because he's entirely competent. He's a filmmaker, so he's not going to waste your fucking time. And he's not afraid to like deliver who he is. Like there's no vanity to this performance. And he ends up taking an axe straight to the forehead, or actually it's a machete straight to the forehead. That really sets up the title card, You're Next. It's a really well done sequence that we then revisit when other characters find themselves at this house again. We get the same music cue because the CD, for whatever reason, is on repeat. And they're just letting it play at full blast the entire time because who's going to fucking hear it?
Right, exactly.
Wonderful setup here. But once everyone starts arriving at the house, you begin to get the dynamics at play here. Dad is stoic and has expectations you're never going to meet. Mom is fragile. She very obviously, and we're told very early on, is medicated and has a paranoia issue. The problem for her and everyone else here is her paranoia is correct in this circumstance.
Right. But it's a little bit of a, mom who cried wolf situation where, she's probably had these little, paranoid breakdowns, many times in the past. And, everybody has sort of learned to just ignore them with, varying levels of annoyance and lack of sympathy.
Yes. And it's obviously a family that can weather the storm of her emotional disturbance, but that doesn't mean they aren't affected by it. And you can tell that there's a legit parenting gap here.
Right.
We don't really know what everyone has necessarily achieved, but you pick up context clues in terms of like Drake feels like that son who followed in the footsteps and as such feels resentful. He's never viewed as his own person and takes that resentment out on anyone who didn't make the same mistakes he did.
Right. Yeah. This was written by someone who understands sibling dynamics and the weird ways, like, you know, you and I are both only children. That's a little different for only children where there's an age gap between you and the next child. So, you know, you don't quite, you know, you're not quite put in the role of, well, everybody has to be like you. You know what I mean? Like, and then like you feel a lot of resentment towards well, maybe you did. I don't know, but you know, a certain level of resentment from your siblings because, you know, I don't know how much your parents ever use the phrase, "Why can't you be more like Patrick?"
No, I can guarantee you that's not a phrase stated aloud.
I mean, I know with my sister, who is significantly younger than me, because, you know, we are alike in a lot of ways. You know, she did also get like, well, you know, why can't you be more like Gina Morte? But not necessarily in a good way, more like in a, you know, I didn't talk back or anything like that. I basically, you know, took the shit that was piled on me. And whereas my sister, you know, would basically be like, you know, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And, you know, which she should have, you know, in retrospect, I wish I had done that. I wish I had been more like her. But, you know, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting dynamics in like, you know, sibling placement and everybody clamoring to, you know, be the parent favorite. And, you know, then that's why in some ways it's better to be the only child.
Well, yeah, let's see how Ollie wears it. Hopefully he wears it as well as you do. But yeah, that I think is what is the hook that I don't think Lionsgate anticipated, is that despite the fact that this family is rich, and we really don't know how rich, but like rich enough, that really what it is at its core is a lot of resentful children who are more resentful at each other than they are at even their parents.
Well, yeah, because they're going to, you know, when the parents are gone, you know, it's going to be just them. And, you know, oh God, I got to be stuck dealing with you the rest of our lives. Like, you know,
right.
Sort of like, you know, what to do with the rest of the family fortune. And, you know, and of course, everybody thinks they're entitled to more than the other one. And yeah, it's, you know, in some ways, you know, people are better off not having to deal with, you know, a vast fortune and people who, you know, use certain opportunities like, you know, a death in the family to, you know, let all those resentments bubble to the surface.
Right. And God forbid any of these people have children of their own, because that would have been an entirely different type of bloodbath.
Oh yeah, then the piece of the pie has to be sliced even smaller. And who wants that?
The sort of dynamic here is that they're all at the dinner table when the attack begins. They're attacked from the outside by three people wearing animal masks. One person is wearing a lamb mask, one a fox, and another a tiger. So they will be referred to as their animal masks from this point onward. The first person to sort of sense that things are going wrong outside of the house, because at the dinner table, things have devolved into a yelling match by the time the first kill happens, is Tariq. Tariq, played by Ty West. I think he might have a dozen lines total in the movie. He's introduced so late into it. But we're instantly communicated to the kind of person he is because of the kind of scarf he's wearing and how he's wearing it.
Yeah, I mean, this dinner table is just, you know, they should have like place cards to say douchebag number 1, douchebag number 2.
It's very clear that there isn't a fail son. It's flavor of fail son,
right, in
this. And to that degree, Amy being the sole daughter gets a pass. We sort of get the feeling that she is the most artistic of the crew. Therefore, she has fallen in sway of someone like Tariq, who, it should be noted, submitted a documentary to the Cleveland Underground Film Festival. And no, that does not mean it's shown underground. Just one just I feel like venting everything that's ever come to him, that feels like a conversation both of them have had at some point in their lives.
Oh, sure, yeah.
About movies they've made, and they've decided to make it the joke here. And it's fantastic. But Tariq notices something outside, wanders up to the window. That is a bad idea because he receives a crossbow bolt straight to his forehead.
Love it. Love it.
And the last thing that goes through his mind is pointy and wood. This, of course, sets off a panic within the house. Dishes are broken, glasses are smashed, and it is only the quick thinking of Aaron that gets them out of the room and using chairs as shields because, of course, they are old and solid wood. And so they can take a bolt without actually passing through and hurting the person on the other side. This is the first glimpse of Aaron's hidden leadership capabilities and facilities in a panic situation. And we will learn why later on. Now, this is when people start concocting the plan. We should get outside and get to the cars and drive to within cell phone range because someone has put on some form of cell phone blocker so the signals are blocked. Amy decides, I'm going to take on this task. You guys open the door and I will run as fast as I can because, quote unquote, I'm the fastest. She may be. She doesn't get a lot of credit. Let's give her credit where it's due. She seems to have a history of lackluster boyfriends. As the star of A Horrible Place to Die, she might have the most plot armor of anyone in the cast if you were aware of the movie that came before it. And it turns out that is not true because she is taking off the table immediately when she runs headlong into a steel garrote wire and slices open her throat.
Love it.
And you watch this on, you didn't see this in the theater?
No, I did not.
All right. This had the second loudest reaction of the entire movie when this happens. It caught everyone off guard, including myself. And this was one of those sequences that I've developed over the years where I see something gross, grody, and surprising. And my response is to laugh and clap.
Well, yeah, you got to I do that too. It's that little surprise bark of laughter where you're like, oh my God.
It's because it's a fucking delight.
Yeah.
It got me. The movie got me. And that's, something that I don't demand in a horror movie, but I love it when it does happen. I love it when I am surprised and generally, shocked by what it's able to accomplish. And, that's delight. It taps into that thing of when you watched a horror movie when you're a kid and you saw that one horrific axe to the face or whatever it was. You're like, oh my God, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, I think that, again, I apologize for repeating myself. At the time, horror audiences were hungry for surprises. We were coming from, out of a really painfully dull period in horror where the big surprise was, oh, you get to see Paris Hilton killed on screen. Now, again, I liked the House of Wax remake. I did. Yeah. But, none of these remakes were really taking risks. You know what I mean? None of them were doing anything that, set out to, catch the audience unaware.
I think to their detriment. Yes.
Well, absolutely. So yeah, of course, like I wish I had seen this in theaters because it was, I enjoyed it enough watching it at home, but this was like a couple of years after it had come out. And
so you have this siege mentality here where we're getting a little bit of the sort of Rio Bravo assault on precinct 13 thing where it's not just a home invasion, but that you have outsiders who also have prolonged access to the indoors. We don't know at this point how many people are attacking. We've seen, one person so far. So you don't really know how many people they're up against. But this type of situation is entirely foreign to almost everyone who is in this family. They have not had this level of conflict or distress in their entire lives that we are aware of. Audrey, of course, the most fragile person in the entire movie, her response to this is to become instantly histrionic. She has watched 2 people die, including her only daughter. And her response is, I need to crumble in a place. So they get her upstairs into her bedroom where someone is lurking under the bed, and she promptly received a machete to the face.
I mean, she probably wanted it that way at that point.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think anyone wants to see the death of their own child. No. That does not sound appealing to me.
Yeah, no, I'm crumbling and waiting to die too.
Yeah. This is an entirely relatable thing, but I don't think anything. At this point, everyone's under the reasonable suspicion that if they simply lock the doors, they can at least barricade themselves inside. And this reveals that no, there are actually people inside the house who are also part of this. So this sort of has that take Michael Myers and multiply them. We're setting up an expectation of a masked killer. Masked killers typically do not have human foibles outside of something, say, like Scream, where Ghostface constantly takes damage. Although in the end, it doesn't seem to affect the person on the inside because I guess they're wearing bike helmets. We never find out.
Right.
But there is this sort of vibe going here where it's like, this is more Halloween-ish, but that's also kind of a setup. The next person to go is Kelly Drake's wife. What do we know about Kelly? She watches TV for the commercials. Which, again, I feel like is Barrett, Swanberg, West. These are conversations they've had with other people, and they're just feeding this stuff into this screenplay. She voices out loud. She thinks Aaron's accent is annoying. I think because it pulls focus. She doesn't like that. She does have the good sense to look under the bed. And I think technically, if in a head-to-head race, might be in competition for Amy for fastest in the family. But of course, maybe it's that Amy is the fastest sibling. Let's put it that way. And at a certain point, she ducks underneath the garrote wire and makes a break for the outside world in order to gain access to a phone or communication device. And she makes it all the way to Eric's house. And she is defenestrated through a glass door, then through a table. And at this point, it's just kind of like, how many glass things can we throw this woman through?
It's like, just, here's this. Here's a picture frame. Let's slam her against that.
And I just don't think defenestration is one of those things I don't think we use often enough. And it's really fun and it's really visceral.
It's so good.
And she takes an axe to the face, but in a golf swing format.
Yeah, I know. So much thought was put into these kills, mm-hmm. and even if the rest of the movie wasn't entertaining, that alone would have sold me on it. It's going for it, and it really delivers on what you want. And then we're not even to that in itself is satisfying. But now we're going to get into the other satisfying element of this. And that is later on, it will be revealed that Erin, the annoyingly accented girlfriend of Crispin, was raised by a prepper, a doomsday prepper. And as a result, because her dad thought the world was going to end, she has been prepared for people to invade a house, let's say. And that she understands weaponry and how to defend herself. These are things that she has decided to leave behind and escape.
but that training is still there and it's just reflexive. And as such, she mysteriously is the most capable person to be put into the situation that we will get more into as we go along. But we see this really head on when Tiger Mask enters the living room area, and she manages to kick him in the balls, slice open his leg artery, and then knife him in the back, and then hit him over the head multiple times with a meat tenderizer. And he's so sure that there's no way this petite woman could do any damage to him that he really leaves himself open to a nut shot. And when he gets it, again, this was the third loudest reaction in the movie because you're not expecting it if you hadn't seen the trailer.
Right. And you can see that, as despite the fact that, they've set up traps, they've done some recognizance of the house, and, they had some inside help, obviously.
Yeah.
There were certain things they weren't prepared for.
Right.
I honestly think that all the parties involved in the planning of this attack were smugly assured that everybody would be easy to take out.
Yes.
Like even outsiders that happen to be there.
Yes. And we'll get into what Crispin thought, I think, towards the end, but it's important to keep in mind that Crispin knowingly dragged her into this. So Tiger Mask is bludgeoned to death and stabbed in delicious manner, to which everyone who watches this is stunned because you don't really expect this. Someone who I don't think does Paul see this happen? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But Paul's the dad. Paul's the one who kind of figures out by discovering of bottles of pee that their attackers have been watching them. This is not random. This is a very targeted attack, and they know the layout of the house, and they're probably going to use that against them. That being said, it does not stop Paul from getting machete slashed in the neck and dying right in front of Drake and Z. Not Drake, Felix and Z, rather. And this is where it is revealed that Felix and Z are very much aware of this plan. In fact, they have been the ones to draft these killers.
Right, exactly.
This actor who is playing Felix, I think, delivers some of the most memorable lines in this movie in a way that's rather undersung. I really like this performance. It's kind of left field how he just takes on some of this character's mannerisms. He's both underwhelmed by certain things and genuinely disturbed by them. It's like he doesn't know his emotions don't work the right way. So seeing his father die is disturbing to him, but not necessarily in the moment. He's more concerned about the blood on his face.
Right.
But when he's washing it off, you can tell he's completely rattled. But also, he's allowing his girlfriend to want to make out with him on top of the dead body of his mom.
I had to. It's like Felix. Can I call you Felix? How long do you think Z's going to hang around when this plan is completely brought to fruition? And how long do you think Z's going to let you live?
Yeah.
I mean, they're more than like a mile outside that house before she's putting a knife in his throat or shooting him in the head.
Well, they do need to keep him alive for him to actually get the money.
Well, true, yeah.
I don't think there are any good planners outside of Erin who can think on her feet. Obviously, she's not planned for this in advance, but she at least is prepared to, improvise in a way that keeps her alive. And if other people would listen to her, would have kept them alive. So yes, next to vampires, Felix and company may not be the best planners in the world. Although,
yeah, I think Felix may be an all-timer, thinking with the wrong head.
But we'll get back to him because first we have to talk about Drake. As we mentioned before, Drake is a massive dick. I don't think he has one. Let's not confuse this with having a massive penis. He just is a massive dick. He thinks commercials are the height of the art form these days. He enjoys a mock turtleneck in a neutral color that I do not think suits his skin tone. He really does not enjoy when other people are happy, like at all. Early on in this, he takes a crossbow bolt to his shoulder blade and whines about it for the rest of the movie in a way I think is semi-relatable. I don't think any of us particularly want to wander around with a crossbow bolt to their shoulder. That being said, good news, his wife has some barbiturates that he can down real fast. So that's going to help. And then when he ends up tinking it off the top of that garrote wire trying to escape the house, he's so zonked that he yanks the bolt out of his shoulder and passes out. He is a limp noodle that other people have to drag around. Like, he is so fucking useless. But they pull that maneuver that we see in another 2013 movie of the whiny person who just won't die.
Yeah.
And I think it's used to great effect both here and in the Evil Dead remake. It just it really, really works.
Yeah, and it's like, he probably doesn't deserve this, but maybe he does.
You get the feeling when Felix takes him out that this is both troubling and cathartic at the same time.
Definitely.
But I do love the line of, look at how many times you made me stab you. Would you just die already? Because he is stabbed with multiple pointy toolbox objects and eventually passes away. The next person to get it is the Lamb Mask, a.k.a. Craig. He takes a nail to the foot because Aaron has set up 2 rows of boards with nails through them. One that is visible when you look past the threshold of the window, and the other one just below out of eye line, so that when he steps through the window into the living room, he gets that nail to the foot. A move we'll begin to see in movie after movie after movie after this.
Oh yeah. This says even it doesn't, while it was successful, it still doesn't get quite the acclaim it deserves because this influenced so many movies that came after it.
This is really core to a lot of movies we see afterwards, and I feel like a lot of movies get a head start on it because a fair amount of creative people saw it 2 years to it actually hitting theaters. So some of the juice this has is just being sucked out of it by other films because they got a weird head start on it. It's being lapped by other movies that were mere thoughts. They might have been scriptments at that point.
Right.
That being said, Lamb Mask gets a nail to the foot and then a knife to the forehead.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, there's a lot of head damage in this movie.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to by far the best one yet.
Very, very true. Then we have Felix. As noted, Felix is a weasel. It is hard enough on him already without your crying and whining, which I really enjoy. I think his line ratings are masterful. I just love this character. I mean, he's terrible, but it is a genuine, why isn't this character on the same level of like Stu? I feel like this is, as you mentioned, like a little too unheralded.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I'm like, damn it, we are doing this movie dirty. We're doing the same thing Lionsgate did. We've been talking about it for 2 years and not covering it.
Right. Yeah, we are.
somewhere in here, Fox Mask gets it. He's beaten to death with a log, I think, before Felix. So I had that out of order. And just again, more head damage. Like this is going to be an interesting one for Choose Your Own Deathventure. Let's put it out there. But I can tell you that the two that we're probably not going to pick. First is Felix, who gets a broken blender shoved into his forehead and then plugged in.
Every time I use a blender, I think about that. I think about this movie.
Because not only is he being stabbed in the forehead with the broken tempered glass, but then the blade of that, and then it to be turned on, is rather delicious revenge. And that was the biggest reaction in the audience.
Yeah. That's probably, the most memorable, slasher movie style death I've seen in probably the past 20 years.
Yes.
As far as like creative and, something I've never seen done before in a slasher movie.
And because this has that slasher vibe, but also it's a siege picture and you have a very capable final girl, it becomes a reverse slasher at a certain point where what we're looking forward to is her killing off these weirdos and wieners. And it's something you start to root for instead of fear.
And she's pulling a Jason. She's making do with whatever is handy.
Exactly. And as such, she does get slashed in the leg with a giant piece of window that she Texas Chainsaw Massacres herself through. Which, again, like great reference. We're not seeing a lot of people self-defenestrate a whole bunch. But it's also doing it in a way that isn't so, I'm referencing Texas Chainsaw
Massacre.
Also,
it's a practical reason she's doing it because there's a trap set up at the front door.
Yes, there's only one escape.
Yeah, she can't get out that way.
Yeah. And she's taken a bet that she can land on the soft grass in such a way that'll protect her enough. What she's not bargaining for is that she's going to land on a giant chunk of glass she's going to have to yank out of her leg. Now, as such, it slows her down for the rest of the movie. So she's not necessarily a Jason or Michael. That being said, she's so much more capable than everyone else just with her background that she's able to take a knife from Felix and stab it into the top of Z's head.
I said that girl got some arm strength because, I believe the top of your head is the thickest, strongest part of your strongest bone in your body.
Unless she just really nailed whatever is minorly left of Z's fontanelle.
I was going to say she hit that soft spot perfectly.
She just really nails it. In real life, these two actresses were best friends and roommates. I assume they're both friendly still now. I don't say that they broke up or anything, but it's just like one had gotten the movie and the other one auditioned for the Z role, and they just happened to be Australian roommates living in Hollywood.
Oh, come on! Don't you think we'd love the opportunity to for one of us to get to murder the other one on screen?
Oh, on screen for sure. For wow. Yes, I think since you brought it up, may have been thinking about it more often than I considered, but I understand. I'm a lot. Sometimes you're like, shut the fuck up. But yes, this movie is genuinely something I think so many movies pick up on the potential of that. Lionsgate semi-fumbles. If they had just put it out there right away, I think from that buzz, it would have built a bigger audience, and everyone who follows after it in this category feels more like a riff. Whereas some of this stuff becomes rote to the point where, like, do we have to have a capable final girl anymore? like this was genuinely groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah. And it was very much, we don't have to over explain anything. People enjoy seeing obnoxious rich people get jacked up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You don't have to, you don't have to drive the metaphor home. We talked about this when we did our episode on The Running Man, where, it's a little bit preachy to the audience. And, after a certain point, it's like, all right, I get it. I get it. I get it. You don't have to have your lead actor almost literally, explaining to the audience what this movie is about.
Yeah.
And then here it's like, this is fun watching. These people are obnoxious. It's everybody's had an awkward, meet the boyfriend or girlfriend's family situation where it's like, oh wow, these people are awful. I don't think I can be part of this family. And and maybe fantasize about seeing what would take a crossbow arrow to the forehead.
Yeah.
This sort of works that out, I mean, and it's just a lot of fun.
And to note, like the thing that, we've been alluding to, Crispin does reveal that when he ran to get help, he was hiding out because he couldn't handle the violence. And this is revealed when Felix's phone rings and it's Crispin going, is it done yet? Is it over? He's in on it. He has brought Aaron into this bloodbath, and he tries to weasel his way out of it by saying, you were supposed to be the witness. No harm was meant to come to you. You would be the guarantee that we wouldn't be caught because you would be the person who had no direct financial relationship to the family and witness this happening and be able to testify to it in court. And that's bullshit. She was going to die. He thought she was dead meat.
Of course. And again, it's like, Crispin, do you think you're going to get away with this in the long run?
Right. Like a vampire, bad planner, this
right.
Crispin. I mean, knowing nothing about this woman's backstory, real big fucking mistake.
That suggests to me a subtle dig at, a lot of problems, I see women bringing up with as far as men is men don't want to know anything, particularly right. in the early stages of a relationship. Men tend to be, and again, I'm playing in generalizations. I understand that, but they don't really express a lot of interest in a woman's background. Like they're not really, they don't ask a lot of questions. Where'd you grow up? And I mean, honestly, if I was in the early stages of dating someone, they told me they grew up in a survivalist camp, I'd be like, please tell me more.
Right.
It's like, why were you in a cult? Like, can you tell me the circumstances that led you to being raised? Somehow he didn't know this. And it's like, did she just feel like she couldn't tell him? Did he just not have any interest in how she grew up or anything? And I feel like it's probably the latter. He just didn't care enough to ask.
Yeah, she might have been reticent, but he definitely does not forward. He definitely wanted to know less about her, to a degree, because he's uninterested, and B, because she's going to be dead by the end of this.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the question that goes unanswered is, did they mention how long they've been dating? I assume not very long.
Not very long.
So, I mean, was this, did he go into dating her to, set her up to be a sort of sacrificial lamb in all this?
It's entirely possible that he set her up to that degree. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a question we'll never going to know the answer because she murderizes that motherfucker.
Yeah. How could she not?
He is stabbed in the throat and in the eye in a very satisfying manner. Of course, this last death blow is witnessed by the cop who has finally gotten the signal that from 911 that something's happening at this house, shows up and shoots Aaron in the shoulder in a reverberation of happy birthday to me. And I love it. I love this movie. Yeah. And the fact that this goes on, he goes out to call for more cops, comes back in the house at the front door where she has set up the Freddy trap of the weighted, in the nightmare, it's a sledgehammer, but here it's an axe.
Which is going to have her fingerprints all over it.
All over it. So she looks guilty as fuck.
Right. So where we would expect to see a triumphant, her jumping into someone's car and getting away with it, not getting away with it because she didn't do it, but, escaping danger, now she's more screwed than she was before.
Yes. So yeah, love this movie. Let's play Choose Your Own Deathventure. And that's where we decide of the deaths portrayed in the film. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? We have a forbid today, stabbed with a machete, or your head hacked open with a machete, a cross arrow bolt to the forehead, run neck first into a garrote wire, a machete to the head while in bed, defenestrated 3 times, once after death by axe to the face. Her body is thrown through another window. Brenda in Friday the 13th style. You can get kicked in the balls, meat tenderizer to the knee, and multiple whacks to the back of the head with same meat tenderizer. You can have your throat slashed by machete, arrow to the back, multiple stab wounds to the chest from pointy toolbox items, nail to the foot, knife to the forehead, beaten to death with a log, blender blade mixer to the head, knife to the top of the skull, stabbed in the throat and the eye, or axe to the chest. Gina, what say you?
I love my crossbow bolts, but I think I'm actually perhaps unexpectedly going to take that running into a wire because I love it so much. Now granted, you would never hear me use the phrase, I'm the fastest. Now, because unless I'm in a room full of people in wheelchairs, that is extremely unlikely.
My question to you, Gina, is who is going to anticipate you running out the front door? Because, and I don't mean to call you out, baby, you short.
That's true. That's true. So it may be possible that the top of my head comes off.
You'll probably slice the top of your head off.
Yeah, which would be okay because that's certainly going to be faster than getting my throat slashed.
Yes.
So I'm still going to take that one.
And then if somebody cooks that up in a little steel pan with some good oil, baby, that's good eating.
Exactly.
You got yourself a stew going on. I'm going to take arrow to the forehead because, as I said previously, the last thing Tariq thinks is wood.
It's like, huh?
What?
Is that
it? What did I just say? So yeah, I like, and I look good in a scarf. That's neither here nor there. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I very occasionally lately write about movies and pop culture on my newsletter, Gina Watches Things at ghost.io, and I am mostly on Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out with screamshare.beehive.com. That's BEEHIIV.com for horror movie recommendations in your inbox every single Thursday. So you always have a horror movie to watch at home when you want it. I'm going to help you out there. You can find us on your socials, your Instagrams, your Threads, your Blue Skies. We've got the Discord server where you can chat with us and everyone else. We love to hear from you. We even have the Facebook group if you're into that sort of thing. You can join us over at Patreon. We have bonus episodes for you each and every month so you can get even more Kill by Kill. Buy a t-shirt, rate and review us on Apple so we can be seen and heard by more people. And you can also join us on YouTube and chat or Spotify. If you don't listen on YouTube, that's fine. Just subscribe because it helps us be seen and heard by more people. And that just about does it. Don't worry, folks. The body count's going to continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all